guys, and welcome to another episode. Today I am really excited to be sitting down with Dardan, somebody who I've been following for the last little while since EVA rideshare app was kind of initially announced. Dardan, it's a pleasure to have you here. I guess maybe before we dig too deeply, could you kind of explain just basically where you came from and just kind of how you got introduced to EOS?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for the invitation. As I said earlier, this is really a good opportunity for us to just explain more deeply what EVA is about. I'm Dardan. My family background is from Albania. I was born in Switzerland, but I live in Canada, Quebec, the French province of Canada. That's why I have an accent. How we got introduced to EOS? When we first started EVA, our goal was to solve the problem of Uber. What's the problem behind Uber? Why do cities don't like Uber? Why do citizens don't like Uber, most of them? And the reason is, there's two reasons. The first one is Uber increases the precarity of its partner drivers. So basically, these people aren't gaining, maybe they're winning at least in Quebec and Montreal, $10 to $15 an hour. And then they have to pay the gas, the car insurance, and all this stuff. And the second problem with Uber is basically Uber and all these kind of ride-sharing, sharing economy companies, they're aggregating the economy. But what they're doing is they're taking 25% of each transaction and investing it to shareholders, to some random people that we even don't know their names or where they come from. In the case of Uber, it's like Saudi Arabia, which is one of the worst countries in the world. So these were the two problems we were aiming to solve. And when we were looking for to get the best technology that can offer data anonymity and also scalability, we came out to find EOS. This was back in January or February, so pretty recent. And we're reading about EOS and the potential of the blockchain and the opportunity that it gives us in terms of scalability, which is the main issue with blockchain right now, but also in terms of energy consumption. I mean, EOS is perfect for a company, for a DAO like EVA to just implement its network and grow with communities and so on. So.
For sure. Yeah, EOS is definitely enabling a lot of things that we never previously thought were possible, and it's interesting, such as a rideshare DAPP, which I'm really hoping is going to be wildly successful. Of course, you are in my home nation of Canada, so it was kind of cool to connect with you guys and have the opportunity to sit down with you because I'm excited about it. I really appreciate applications that are using the technology to solve real world problems, and I think that that's what you guys are doing here. So again, thanks for sitting down.
One of the things just to mention with the technology we're using, the idea behind EVA is that the users, so riders and both driver members, they don't have to know what is blockchain. They don't have to play with public-private keys. They don't have to care about cryptos, Bitcoin, or whatever cryptocurrency they want to use. They don't have to care about this. Basically, the application is the same user experience and even better than Uber, but with all this decentralized backend that sustains the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that because that's something that Dan Larimer has kind of said. The best applications are on EOS, are really going to be those applications that are able to take out that association with blockchain. To really have a good application, you shouldn't even necessarily know that you're using blockchain. And I think that that's what you guys are in the midst of accomplishing. So
yeah, this is just a funny fact. So far, we've been in several media here, local media, Montreal, Quebec, Canadian media, and they don't talk about the blockchain. And it's really surprising because we're working with people, and they often ask us, "Well, aren't you using blockchain? Why you don't talk about it?" Well, because they don't need to know about it. It's too complicated. Then if you talk about blockchain, they will talk about a black market, about criminality. They will talk about all these, whatever problem there are problems or anything. So
yeah, the stigma behind blockchain, right? Because we all know, of course, it was originally a lot of transactions going through the dark web. People would use it to kind of purchase illegal things and drugs, but we're changing that. EOS is changing that, which is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about a lot of things that we're doing, and it does come with a stigma, but I think that that's improving. And I think that some of the things, including what you're doing right now, are going to allow an opportunity for that to really improve.
Yeah.
I want to hit you with a little bit of a big question. The ride sharing industry, that's a big industry. And of course, EVA has some major advantages because you guys are essentially decentralizing it, right? How do you intend to compete, or do you tend to compete with some of the big kind of conglomerates like Uber? What's kind of your plan with that?
Well, we truly believe in localization. What I mean by this is to give back the power of the business to the people involved in the business. The way EVA constitutes herself itself is in every jurisdiction in regards to mobility transportation, we register a legal and a real multi-stakeholder cooperative. What is a cooperative? A co-op is a member-owned company, basically. So these nodes, let's talk in like blockchain terms, these local nodes are the one responsible to operate the business in the city or in the territories the local government authorizes. So the idea here is, and it happens here right now in the province of Quebec, Canada. We're right now opening another co-op in Ontario, which is another province of Canada. These local co-ops have to comply with the local regulations. And these local regulations are mainly for the safety of both rider and drivers members. So basically, let's say in Quebec, drivers need to have a 35 hours formation before they go and drive. They have to get like a background check verification. They have to get a special driver's license. In other places like Toronto, per se, Uber has to pay a subsidy to the city at every ride. So we will also have to comply with these rules. In places like London, they have to have a customer services 24 hours a week to give support to if there's problems. So all these technical issues, all these specific stuff related to daily operations are taken care by the local nodes, the local cooperatives. And what's cool about the co-op model is we often associate it with agriculture, like in farming and stuff like this, seeds. But the co-op model is basically a decentralized company. Like the property is shared among the members, and the members decide how do we operate. The members decide the pricing, like that. Within the smart contract of EVA, they have the parameters to set the pricing, the search pricing. They have a control on who is a driver member because drivers have to be regulated in most of the Western cities. So all these things are taken care of by the co-ops, the nodes.
That's really cool. It's kind of, would you kind of consider it a decentralized autonomous community? Would you put yourself in that sort of back?
So the way we refer to EVA is basically a decentralized autonomous organization in which there's the smart contract and that the owners are the token holders, but there's also the local nodes, and these nodes don't have to care about blockchain because they already have the tech, and the tech is shared to them, and they just have to respect the local regulations to ensure the safetyness for both riders and drivers, and also to create a good reputation for EVA. I mean, Uber has been, and in most of the cities, if you talk to city administrators, they don't like Uber. They don't like the way these companies exchange with them. They talk they want to cooperate. I mean, cities are pretty open. Most of them wants to find new alternatives to mobility, which is not mutually exclusive to the taxi services. I mean, taxi services can operate within the same city with ride-sharing services. I mean, both can happen at the same time. So we need to find new ways to develop new mobility alternatives, because mobility is one of the biggest issues for this century at the local levels. I mean, we have huge problems. People traffic problems, and especially in North America, we don't have good public transit as in Europe per se. So
yeah, it's true. That's an interesting perspective. Another thing that you mentioned was the fact that, of course, you're using a blockchain that's a little bit more energy conscious, and by creating a rideshare application, potentially you're also saving some saving traffic, saving multiple people driving around, creating emissions. So
And
I like it. Go ahead.
to mention what is really cool about blockchain is that at the same time we can ensure the complete anonymity of like the identity of the riders, which like leaks cannot happen. But at the same time, we can open to everyone all the data regarding mobility. So the city's government and the whatever actors, they can see like where are people traveling, like what are like the points in the cities where we need to focus to build like new infrastructures and to build like new like whatever. So this is like a good advantage that still people don't understand, because they it's hard to like materialize blockchain to see like how it can be useful. But this is one of the best things that governments can have, is like to have companies who open such data so that they can work like with the public-private sectors, which is essentially what we're doing.
Yeah, that's creating some sort of justifiable, or I guess analytical data that you can kind of base to make decisions on, what sort of roads you have to operate on, or where you have the most congestion or where you have the most traffic. I think it's great. I totally get it.
And you know what's worse, like in the city of Boston, and like this is crazy. I mean, the city of Boston has to make a specific deal with Uber to have such data. Like they need, the city, which is elected by the citizens, needs to ask to a private company for some public data, like from its own citizens. I mean, like this is crazy just to think about it, like the way like this relationship is built. So we're kind of like removing this middleman. We don't want, and these local nodes, it's important to say, they're almost like fully independent, except the fact that they're using like this technology which is provided by the EVA Foundation and like the community working around. These local nodes like have independence, and they can, let's say if tomorrow they want to switch for another technology, well, they can do it. There's nothing preventing them from using another like EVA technology, or like better than us, built on a fourth wave of blockchain. I don't know, like, so that's.
Yeah, that's a good point, my friend. Can you kind of walk me through the user experience? So from the moment somebody picks up their phone to make contact and call for a rideshare, how does it all work?
Well, I have a cell phone here, which is not mine. I'm just it's an old. We're having like a bunch of cell phones, so we can try the app.
For sure.
So like basically, you open the app. Is this an old cell phone? So it might be. Can you see? Yeah.
I can. Yeah. Yeah, it comes through.
So it says first we're in beta, in open beta right now. So you say okay, and it also explains again the open beta. So basically how it works, you have I don't know if you can see it, you have a map. It's basically like Uber, so you select a destination. So let's say I want to go to the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. So it says the price, the directions. So you want to confirm that you want to take this ride, do confirm here. And then I will just cancel it because I don't want someone to really come here. And then it sends a signal to all the drivers. Just a sec.
And then I'm guessing somebody confirms on the other side.
Yeah. So it's basically like Uber just canceled it. So basically it's the same concept as Uber. So the idea is that people can call rides, and the nearest drivers, if they want to, accept the ride. The transaction is done. The foundation takes 1%. Then there is 4% that goes among all the token holders who stake their token, which are not yet launched. And there's the local co-op can take up to 10%. Like it's up to the co-op. So the co-op here takes 10% for the marketing, for the to pay some staff, like for service members and stuff like this. And this is important to say because co-ops, if they make profit at the end of the year, they can share it among all the members without paying taxes. So this is a cool benefit of having these local nodes which are registered as co-ops.
I love the concept. That's super cool.
Yeah, but we thought about it at the beginning. Like we could have just launched smart contract and like whoever wants to download it, just download it and do ride sharing. But the problem with this, well, there's two problems. The first one is the big war right now among the ride-sharing companies isn't the technology. is the network, is the marketing. So we need some resources to market. Like in Uber isn't making any is always like losing money because they're putting everything in getting more members. The idea is to grow the network and to build a sustainable network of riders and drivers. So we needed these local co-ops like to make like this marketing job so that the comment of the people who don't know shit about blockchain can like be aware of, okay, well, there's something happening here. And the second thing is, it's too easy for a cop in a place like, let's say, Vancouver. Uber is not allowed in Vancouver. Uber tried to go in Vancouver, and what happened is that the authorities were calling rides. Well, with the application, drivers were coming in, give a contravention or like something like you just have to arrest the driver, and like you can kill the ecosystem in less than a day.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of deal with the real world, and this is the best centralized way to deal with it that we found. I mean, we're still open to new ideas and to find new models in different like cities and places, but so far this is the...
I think the fact that participating in the system kind of gives you a certain amount of the profits is going to be enough to incentivize a lot of organic growth. And of course, having some money for marketing to back it all up is always really nice as well. So I think you're nailing it. I would definitely rather participate in a system where my tokens kind of have some benefits. And also, we're going to talk about it a little bit too. I understand the distribution is a little bit more fair with what you're doing as well. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, I know you guys are doing some testing right now. You are going, is it in Montreal that you're testing it? Like, how is that going?
Well, the province of Quebec, just to let you know, in Canada, which is a province, maybe not everyone knows, it's one of the most regulated provinces in the whole country, because of its historical background, and you maybe like know it, like French, English, whatever. So right now we're not legal yet. I mean, we're working with the governments, and the new like transport minister is we've been working with him before he was elected, and we're now like his new priority. He's been in office since less than a month, and we're finalizing all the legal approvals right now. So right now we're in open beta. So the idea is only people in the island of Montreal, the city of Montreal, can play with the application. The idea is that people can make rides between themselves. Yeah. So just to test the functionalities and to test the application with a larger scale than just like our internal team and our like close friends. So far, in less than 2 weeks, tomorrow it will be like 3 weeks. We're in open beta. There has been almost 400 rides that have been like completed, over 1,500 downloads. How many members registered as members? I don't know the number. Like it increases every day, so we're trying to keep track of. I'm not keeping track on a daily basis, but so far it's going well, and we haven't done any marketing or any like commercial elsewhere. Just like people that have heard about us in like in the media or like in the social media. So for us, it's a great success. We found 26 major bugs that we've corrected, and I mean, this is a continual process. I mean, the app isn't perfect, and it will never be perfect. There's always like updates to make, and it's the beauty of it. Like, it's the beauty of technology. We can always change it. So far, it's going well. We want to launch in the city of Quebec, there's also the city named Quebec. So the city of Quebec, the city of Montreal officially, and the city of Gatineau, which is near Ottawa, before the end of the year. So we're talking about December and maybe like January 1st or like this week. Because we want to find the best moment so we can launch like all the applications that everyone can use this without having like to wait like 20 minutes. We need to prepare all this, incentives for drivers to be online and stuff like this. So we're having a team working more at the co-op side. So we're working more at the like local side, which are planning all these elements.
It's neat, and I think that you are going to have kind of that organic push because it's something different. But there's also, of course, some benefits to being involved in the system. Can you kind of give us a breakdown of the token economics really quickly?
Yeah, well, it's a bit complicated because right now we haven't launched the pre-token sale. We're postponing it, and the reason is we don't want to raise funds before we're having a successful minimum viable product up and running. There has been too many scams in the last year in the whole blockchain universe that we don't want, and we feel that people are really tired of having all these projects saying that we will change the world, we will decentralize this and that, and not realizing what they promised, like what was the reason why people invested. So the tokenomics is really simple. The way we want to launch it is it's a fixed cap token distribution. These tokens are for now utility tokens, and these tokens will be tradable on public market, like public cryptocurrencies market. And the idea is if you are a token holder and you stake your token, like depending on the amount of token you have, you get the 4% of each rise distributed to all the tokens that are staked. So the idea is to give like incentives for people to invest, and the value of the token will be based on the whole crypto universe. It depends always on Bitcoin and this traditional speculation, but it also depends on how EVA is if we launch a new city, the value will go up. If a city bans us, the value might go down. And so this is the crypto tokenomics we want to build, but we're kind of waiting because we truly believe that before going and raising capitals and raising money, we need to at least be operating in 3 cities and to have the comment of the people, like grandmothers and normal people using it and having this thing up and running.
It's pretty noble because there's a lot of people who just blast their products out there. They don't care. They get the money. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Too bad, so sad. So yeah. I get it, man. That's really the right way to do it.
And the problem is also with EVA is we kind of need to deal with also these regulations, because the problem is if we do a completely without respecting the regulations of shares and stuff like this, the problem is that the money from the 4% of each rise comes from real life operations. So there's always this kind of two sides of the project. There's this ideal of doing it quickly on the blockchain, just do the smart contract and launch it. But there's also this idea that the real money comes from the real world, from common people. So we're always walking on eggs with this kind of services. It's been really hard, and I think on the blockchain side, people should pay more attention to where they invest their money, because there has been a really huge scams regarding projects. 5% of them get real at the end, which is really not enough. And all of them are good ideas and good solutions, but we need to find a way to implement it with the real world. We don't have any choice. We need to deal with the 99% of the people,
Yeah, it's a good point all around. People are getting scammed, and we kind of saw that with the giant explosion, particularly last year, of the crypto market, and people were putting up ICOs for absolutely anything and just taking people's money and taking off. And of course, in those kind of a market, people are more willing to put their money into things, and people took advantage, and a lot of people got burned. So it sounds like the respectful way to do it. It sounds like you actually care about what you're doing and you have every intention of following through.
And we don't want to be to pretend that we need more than what we actually need so far. And this is also interesting to mention that the local nodes, the local co-ops can get their own money from their the local ecosystem. And so far, this is the case of Quebec. All the money from the co-op and the salaries that are being paid right now are coming from people who just want like local donators, like local people who believe in alternatives to traditional ride-sharing companies. So, I mean, yes, we need money to develop it all over the place, but we don't like need like crazy money. I see some projects like asking like for $40 million. I'm like, what are you guys going to do with all this money? I mean, you really need it. We need to do things in the real way so that people don't feel they're being, bullshit, you know, so.
Yeah, and also too, you don't want to overvalue your project in the early days, because that's financial suicide in terms of a lot of different things, from investment to, once you collect so much capital, if you're overvalued based on the amount of capital that you've collected, your growth is going to be a lot slower. So smart. I get it. I think you've thought this through. I wanted to ask you about the distribution of kind of the fares. Like, what happens to that money when somebody pays for a fare? Because I think that your model on EVA is advantageous to just about every user that's involved.
What do you mean by the fares? The rides?
Yeah, the rides. How does that kind of get broken up? I know that it's better for the driver on EVA than it would be on traditional models.
Well, but first off, the driver gets, it depends on every node, because the nodes decide, and the nodes, like the owner of the nodes are both riders and drivers. So I mean, these people decide. In Quebec, drivers are getting 85% of each ride, plus they can get some revenue from what the surplus of what the COP is making, like the local node. While with Uber per se, and as an example, Uber takes 25%, and the driver only gets 75%. And what we're doing is we're a bit reducing the price for the riders, but because we're taking less than Uber, the driver is also making more. And with all this tokenomics on the long term, like short long term, is both can get tokens, and then they can get this kind of passive revenue from the 4% of each ride, which is also an incentive to develop the ecosystem. Plus, if the local node, like the local co-op, is performing well, at the end of the year, if the local node is making some surplus, it shares the surplus with all the members, depending on how much time they drive and how much they spend, so on. So people can get this like three types of revenue. So the driver can get its revenue from rides, like 85%, from the surplus of the co-op, but also from the 4% of each rides. So there's kind of different aspect to it. And the payments is it's integrated to the smart contract. So the drivers, like when it gives like money, it automatically goes to the driver member, like. And the driver members has the choice whether to cash out in the EVA commodity token, which is a 1-for-1 token within the ecosystem, or to cash out with like fiat money. And he can ask whether he wants like the co-op local node to make him or her a check or like a direct deposit, or he can have both. Like he can decide how much he wants in crypto and how much he wants in fiat money. So, and on the other side, the rider, he can decide if he wants to pay in crypto or with like his or her traditional credit card. I mean, it's up to them. It's to mention that if people pay with credit card, the price would be a bit higher, because these third-party companies are kind of expensive. So.
The power of blockchain. It sounds like it's pretty diverse, right? I do like that, actually.
I think on long-term, people, if they use EVA like on a daily basis, they will switch to crypto and to blockchain, because they will see that they don't have to pay like these middlemen companies to make the transaction from the fiat to crypto. I mean, if you have bitcoins, I'm taking Bitcoin as an example, they can just pay with like parts of Satoshis and the payment is done, you know. So
I was going to ask you about the roadmap, but it sounds like right now you've got 2 cities going. You're looking to get a third, and kind of based on that, you'll decide whether you're going to when you're going to move ahead with the ICO and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything else that kind of stands out in the roadmap that's coming?
Well, we want to so far we're kind of respecting the road, like the deadlines where the beta is up and running in Montreal. We're going to launch the official application in the next coming weeks. For sure, we have some cities where we really want to get in, because there's from the market research we've done, there's a lot of potential. Talking about Toronto, I'm talking about also, like, I don't like the term developing countries, but like developing countries like have a huge potential, because most of them are like really young populations. Everyone has a cell phone, and there's a need for alternatives to traditional fiat currencies and stuff like this, because corruption and government instability. But the way we work is, if there's local entrepreneurs, local people who really want to develop EVA, I mean, they can develop it. For sure, there's kind of a work to make between us and them, so we can ensure that the some service quality is like McDonald's. Like if you want to open a franchise, you can do it. Like you need to pay whatever, but also the McDonald's corporation will look at you and say, well, the French fries should be like that percentage of, like, I don't know, this and that. So we also like have this kind of quality insurance control, so that we make sure that the people there are well implementing the application with the values of decentralization, the values of, I don't want a local node to take 10% if they don't need the 10%. I mean, there's no way to take like this money from the driver if they're just like paying salaries to random people. I mean, there's also this thing like we need to build on this relationship. So basically, we're open to any like entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs who want to develop EVA. Well, they can do it. It's not on the roadmap, but we're working with people in Burundi and Central Africa and the city of Bujumbura, the capital, to develop EVA there. And these guys are working in the microcredit credit card kind of alternative to Visa and MasterCard for their local population. And it's a good way to also implement EVA. So it's always a case-per-case scenario. We're right now developing a team, and doing this for the next year, a team to assist local entrepreneurs to build this, to build their EVA ecosystem. Because we cannot do it without them, but at the same time, they cannot do it without us providing the tech. So, and also this whole business model that we're trying to develop, which is based on values like life, liberty, and localization. So we really want to remove this idea of having a middleman taking money for nothing. So this is really important for us.
I totally get it, and I love it. Can we talk about safety? That's probably one of the questions that you get a lot of. Like, how exactly are you going to ensure the safety of the passengers and the drivers alike?
Well, first off, within the applications, both riders and drivers can rate themselves. There's also this whole system if someone gets too many bad rating for some specific issues, he gets removed by the local node, the local co-op, and so on. We need to understand that safety measures are different from one place to another. And this is really important to understand because each city and jurisdictions has different rules to that. As I mentioned, here in Quebec, driver members needs to have a background check clear. While in Toronto, you don't need to have this. So we want to add some subsequent steps if there is no need to have subsequent steps. We will respect what's the will of the local regulations, and we'll do it in the same way as any other company will do. For sure, this is one of the biggest issue in ride sharing is because basically you're connecting strangers to strangers. So we're developing within the application, and it won't be released right now because we're still working on it, but there will be a function of if you're a female or trans rider and after a specific time you want that the driver member to be a female or trans person, well, you can request for it and it will automatically connect you with a specific female or trans driver member. It's some stuff like this. We're still working on them because it's not the priority right now. We're really working on the success of the MVP, the minimum viable product. But all these safety measures that we can also add to the application. People can select their favorite driver members and they can have a list if they feel comfortable to with this specific person. So all this will be like soon implemented, but we also need to work this with like the feedback we get from the tests, from the people using the applications. But yeah, this is one of the biggest preoccupations, and this has to be taken care of by the local nodes who must comply with regulations. Like this is, it will be a no-go if a local node like doesn't give a shit about what's happening in the city. We need to be like, and so far it's really funny because one of our financial supporters at EVA is the government of Canada. We're also working with the city of Montreal. We've been in, they've sent us in the Smart City Congress in Barcelona. We've been working with the city of Barcelona as well. And it's important to keep like these good relationships because at the end of the day, they're the one deciding. They're the one deciding who can drive like on their streets. So this is really important to kind of also work this political aspect of EVA.
For sure. I think that's really cool. I think it's cool that you've kind of provided some ways to also ensure the safety of some alternative kind of market segments that might need a little bit more security. Like I get that, I understand that, and I think there's definitely a need for that.
And we want to build it with the communities. I mean, if like we cannot think about everything, so we need to build it like kind of symbiotic relationships with the first users or early adopters. If there's a need for like to have a specific options for like people with some specific problems, well, let's work through this and find solutions within the application or within the policies of the local nodes. I don't know, like this has to be like, again, it's a case-by-case scenario. I cannot like say something that generalized.
The beauty of blockchain is you can build it while you build it, right? That's one of the cool things.
This is really amazing. I mean, with EOS, it's much more easier than any other blockchain. Also, we need to mention that it offers this great flexibility in which you can add parameters, you can update the smart contract, and this is so like essential for new businesses who wants to use blockchain to improve their tech or. I mean, this is perfect. Yeah.
What is kind of the reaction of the people that you've shown this to, and what is EVA going to look like? Of course, as soon as I start doing these interviews, somebody starts drilling on the outside of my house or concrete here. So sorry about that. What is kind of the 2-year vision for EVA, and what's kind of the reaction been so far from everybody that you've introduced it to?
Well, there's 2 questions here. I will answer the how do you see EVA like in 2 years after. The reaction of the people so far has been really positive. We were really surprised because when we first made the announcement in this summer about like this idea of launching a beta in Quebec and Montreal, we thought it would be really hard to get driver members to get in, and people just came in with like dozens of them. We did like this pizza night with like info sessions in the office, and we get like over like 35% people like just wanted to and these are all like previous Uber partner drivers, and they just want to change it. Like so far the reception has been really positive. Yes, for sure, there is always this question and especially this is the case for Montreal, Quebec, people caring about the taxi services and saying, well, you guys are basically just Uber number 2 and you want well, you're kind of destroying what the taxi services have built through the past years. And we're kind of trying to explain that, well, this is not mutually exclusive, and also that we want to find ways in which we can integrate the taxi services, let's say when the demand is higher than the supply. Stuff like this, and we want to make collaborations to work with the local taxi companies or taxi co-ops. So this has been really hard to go through because people are kind of really sensitive with this issue. The thing is, we cannot just ignore traditional ride sharing and say, well, we need to protect the taxi services, because in cities like New York or London, where the yellow cab and the black cab are kind of icons to the cities, ride-sharing companies have like over like 30% or 40% of the like mobility market. So we need to find solutions right now before like it's too late. So this has been really hard to kind of explain, communicate.
Can I be opinionated? I'm usually not, but if you can innovate a better system that's more fair to the drivers, that's more fair to the passengers, that's safer, that's more interactive, that's a cooperative, why have something there just because it was there before? Like, why stunt innovation with precedence? That's the most insane. I'm willing to bet that the people who are driving for taxis could come to you and make more money doing it. So
but this is what we're sharing. But the thing is, people are, especially like older people. I don't want to generalize or to like create new stigma, but like we've been like this is a feedback. I'm sharing it because I want to be honest with you. Like this has been like this negative feedback we're getting from people. Like, this is the most common one. But in general, people kind of understand. And I was really surprised by the international cooperative community, like we know co-op, like platform cooperativism and stuff like this. These people really enjoy the new model we're building because it's kind of in between totally peer-to-peer platform with like a cooperative platform. We're kind of taking the best of those and mixing it to build this DAO, which in our perspective, is built in a way that is sustainable on the long term. So we're receiving really positive feedback from this part of this specific community. And also another interesting thing is, and we're seeing this in a lot of places, conference we're going, is we have support from if we go on a political spectrum of like people who are more like right-wing conservatives who wants to open the markets, but we also have a crazy support from like left-wing people who are kind of socialists or whatever. And this is really interesting to see because both of like these groups, you can like categorize them, kind of support the idea of EVA. And the funniest thing is in Quebec, during the last political elections, the kind of right political party supported us, which came to the power, but also the leftish political party also supported us. So this is really interesting to see how both have an interest in having a new alternative, which is local, but also like opens the market to anyone who wants to just join in. So this is really interesting, just to, from a most academic perspective, just to see like what's going on with us and like the people supporting us. This is very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's something that anybody can get behind. What is, in a perfect world, in 2 years, everything goes really well. Where is EVA?
I don't want to be like too optimistic. I don't want to be too pessimist. I will say in 2 years from now, EVA will be in at least, if everything works well, I would love to see EVA in at least 15 to 20 cities. And by cities, I mean cities with over 88,000 people, citizens. So yeah, if everything goes well, and if everything works out well in Montreal and can get 3 cities in the province of Quebec and go move to Ontario, and by then, because people will kind of hear about it, and some people from other places in the world will want to open their local nodes. And in some places where there's no regulation regarding mobility, people will be able to open nodes without registering a co-op. If there's no rule, in places where there's no rules, they can just, drivers can meet between them and just set some specific rules and operate within the city. So this will be this is my perspective. I don't want to be over optimistic, because and this is often the case with blockchain projects, we will beat this or this specific company, this market, and let's be honest among ourselves. 15 to 20 cities will be perfect. I think the whole team will be really happy. We have an amazing team working crazy people from the US, from Canada, from people like supporting us from all over the place. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think you deserve it. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's a really interesting project. I had my eye on it since day one. I am going to definitely post all your links below and do my best to make sure that as many people as possible know about you. I think that a lot of the EOS community already does in particular, because it's just something that's really, really cool that's kind of coming up. I love the new model. I think you have some really good principles. I can see that you're humble, you're down to earth, you're kind of being very carefully calculated by holding off on your ICO until it becomes something that makes sense, as well as kind of some of your predictions. You're not sitting here shilling it to death. So those are a lot of things that I don't see too often that I really appreciate from somebody. Dardan, it's been a pleasure. Do you have any kind of, as I said, I will list all your resources below. I want everybody to go check you out, but do you have any kind of final words for the EOS community before I send you off?
Honestly, to the EOS community, well, and overall, like, guys, there's people from all over the place. We must keep doing what we're doing, because we're kind of developing something new, which is amazing. And the EOS community specifically is really a strong community. There are so many podcasts, there's so many good organization, people, and all the blog producers doing this amazing work within their local community. And I'm thinking about like all these, EOS Cafe, EOSX, EOS Nation, EOS Canada, Trybe, all these groups, and even informal people. There has been so many support. Like, we're getting a lot of support, but I've seen it also with other projects. This is really amazing, because we're facing kind of a real hard time for like blockchain. You have like these big companies, Google, Facebook. I mean, it has been really hard for us just to make some promotion on Facebook, because every time we're asking for a promotion, like to make commercial, we've been blocked because we're using blockchain. And this is just a small aspect of it, but financial institutions, governments, and all like the stigma that has been created in the last 1-2 years. I don't want to say like, hold on, guys, and hold your Bitcoins or EOS. I mean, do whatever you want to do, but we must keep going, keep doing our good job. The only thing is, we need also to release. I think people don't realize the potential of blockchain. We're still like in this all the crypto thing, and people still hope to moon and go like it's a Lambo like in a few weeks. I mean, if you want like to dream, go ahead, but we must also like develop concrete projects that can operate in the real world, so we can apply blockchain to some specific cases. Talking about ride sharing, but I'm just waiting. Who will be the one creating maybe Airbnb on blockchain? Why not? I'm waiting for some people developing other types of services on blockchain, and we need to make things work. And also, another critique is we need to integrate more of the common of the people. We need to integrate more females. We need to integrate more like people who aren't necessarily like crypto enthusiastic, but believe that the technology might be useful actually for a lot of use cases. So, but yeah, so far the EOS community specifically is one of the, and this is not Eva's opinion, like this specific one is my personal opinion, is one of like the greatest communities so far. And people are really like, tied to each other, and this is amazing to see. Then the support, and this is as Eva I'm talking right now, the support we're getting from the community is so amazing. People are asking questions, people are curious, people want like to participate, people wants to get their end like dirty and to work with us. So, and this is amazing. I mean, you don't see this every day, everywhere.
Stop praying for rockets, start building well-constructed elevators into space.
Yeah. And then maybe later you'll be mooning.
Dardan, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm going to make sure, as I said, I'm going to list all your things below, your website, of course, and all your different resources. I appreciate the fact, I just appreciate your humility. It's not something I see too often. Well, that's not true. A lot of people in EOS space are really good, but you just have the right attitude. You're humble, you're fair, you're transparent, you're honest. And I think it's a really cool project. So I'm going to be watching very closely.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, my friend.